Okay, I'm finally back to work on my template. I just used my little template there to make my big template, the one that'll actually fit the end of the, what do you call it, the end of the OSB for each side. So I'm going to go and cut it out and see how it fits. Okay, this should almost go without saying, but when I cut the cardboard, I just don't cut it onto the metal for the van. I grab a piece of scrap wood, like that piece of OSB there, put it down, and I'll cut on that. So I'm cutting into the OSB and not into the van floor. Small little note, but sometimes things like this are overlooked and you don't want to scratch the paint any more than you have to. Okay, there's my template. And for some reason when I flipped it over and cut this angle out over here, I got a little bit more of a gap right there. And of course it doesn't go all the way to the wall because I cut my wood at 6'1" now instead of 6'2", which would be 74 inches, but it doesn't matter. I don't need to go all the way into that little gap right there. Same thing on this side, I got a little bit of gap out there, which is just fine. So, trying to decide how important that little gap is right there, but I think the template's okay. Okay, I flipped the template over to make sure that the mirror image of it works on the other side of the van. And as you can see, it does. So, that was almost a given that it would, but it's best to try it and make sure. So now I have the template. I'll just flip over for each end of the plywood, the OSB, and see and do the cutting. Okay, here's the dilemma. See the piece of OSB there? It's 6'1" inches by 4 foot. How do I get that up onto sawhorses by myself without twisting my back? I found a way. Okay, here's my way. Simply clamp the plastic sawhorses to the piece of wood before setting it up. Otherwise, I'm just going to knock out those plastic sawhorses every time I try to put it on top of them. I just realized in that previous video I was clamping the sawhorses to the wrong side. Didn't need them on this side because I'm going to be cutting on the ends. It's good on clamping it, or else you see that'll easily flip. I can always put more clamps on if I need to. Before marking, I decided to double check my measurements. I know the distance between the two wheel wells is 56 inches. So what I did was I put the template down, you see there, measured over 56 inches and you see that line there. That line is for when the template is on this side. So just double checking it before I start marking and then cutting. Okay, it's all marked. A little bit hard to see the markings because there's already lines on the OSB. As always, I went for the underneath side of the OSB to mark on, even though it sort of doesn't matter because this is subflooring. It will never be seen. But it's always a good practice to always mark your wood on the side that is least likely to be seen, least likely to have to be finished. Okay, I'm about ready to cut. I got my Black & Decker jigsaw. I bought this crazy thing when I first moved into my house about 20 years ago. The dumb thing still works. The blade rotates on the dumb thing and the knob fell off. So I have to keep an eye on the blade to see what direction it's really pointed. I want to get a new one, but I'd rather spend my money on the build out than more tools that I can get around. In other words, I already have one of these. It still works, so I'm gonna have to stick with it and just use my money to buy materials instead. I just bought some new blades. Good quality blades this time. I found my old blades, but I think I'd rather stick with a good quality one like Bosch. Spend a little bit more on the blades and they seem to last a bit longer and do a better job of cutting. Okay, everything takes longer when you're working by yourself. What I did was I started the cut up into the curve on both ends. Then I clamped it down to another piece of wood, because nothing's more irritating than when you get down to the last couple inches that you're cutting and the weight of the wood that you're cutting off, you know, eventually is heavy enough to, you know, break off what you're doing and give you a break off your corner or your edge and give you an ugly edge or a broken piece out. So this is the safest thing to do, is you clamp it so that it can't fall when you finish your cut, and you get a nice clean cut that way. Yeah. Sometimes you have to do this when you're working alone. Otherwise, if you're not working alone, the other person can hold up the piece you're cutting off so it doesn't break off when you go to finish your cut. Okay, there we go. One side cut and done. Now to move on to the other side. Okay, got them done. Got the cuts done, that is. So glad I clamped it to those little sawhorses, because as you can see, there's no way that would have stayed up while I was cutting and vibrating. It's like, it's barely at the point of balance on that piece of wood. But it worked. As for the clamps, gotta love Harbor Freight. I bought them years ago when I was doing a lot of clamping and gluing on my wood projects. And you can't beat the Harbor Freight price of something like $3.50 a clamp. So I ended up with a lot of clamps back then, because every time I did a project, I found a couple more clamps would help. So I'd buy a couple more. Eventually I had a good selection. Also, when carrying around wood, I always like to wear gloves. These Hardy brand ones, I also bought at Harbor Freight. They're cheap. I found I really don't need an expensive pair of gloves, not really for as little work as I do, and these rubberized ones work great. They do wear out, but so what, the price is cheap, and I usually get several uses out of them before they wear out. So I just, when I'm down there, I'd buy like 2 pair at a time. Okay, apparently my cutting was less than perfect. As you can see, it's too tight of a fit. It won't go, it doesn't fit. Most of the problem feels like it's on this end. So I'm just going to take my orbital sander and go to work on it, you know, slowly sanding out those edges till it does fit. Which is an okay thing, because it is better to have it too tight and be able to sand it until it does fit, than to have the opposite true, where you have a 1 and 2 inch gap because you totally messed up your measurements. I didn't double, measure twice, cut once. Anyway, no big deal. This is to be expected. For an orbital sander, I'll be using this little beast. I bought this one at Harbor Freight a few years back. Eventually I will replace it with a Ryobi so that it's cordless and matches the rest of my cordless tools. So I have one complete set there, so I don't have to worry about extension cords. Anyways, this little beast still works. So, and way back when I was doing woodworking, I was buying the 50 packs of these things, because I got tired of running to the store every time I'd run out of the 3 packs. So I have plenty. So that's a good thing. I don't have to run to the store to get sanding discs. I'll start with the 80s. They tend to work away the wood really quick. Okay, I didn't take enough off, but you can see it did come down farther this time. I think it did, at least. And you can see where the tight point is, right in between the 2 wheels. It doesn't look like it's tight here. So I think it's only just pinching in the depth, in that one spot right there. So I'll work on that some more. Almost. The problem is, I didn't notice this, I just marked it in black ink right there. See, I gotta trim off that corner right there, and on the other side as well. That corner down there needs trimmed. Then I think it'll fit. I think these sides are good now. Okay, I'm so not good at this. Okay, trimmed it, And I just put a black mark where it's touching, where I need to trim it some more on that side. And yeah, over here on this side as well. I'm so not good at this, but just do it and get her done. Okay, and the last time I put it in there, I actually broke this corner. It's like, oh well. I don't know how important that corner is. It goes back under where cabinets and stuff will be anyway. Easy to patch if I have to. Like I said, I'm just not good at this. Okay, I got those areas trimmed. Now look where it's heading now. It's pinching right here. You see where I'm touching? And which means, of course, it's pinching right there on that side as well. So it's getting closer. Okay, finally got the fit. I trimmed off a little bit too much right there, but all this area back here is really going to be underneath the bed. All this whole area, but still it needs a subfloor. So finally got the fit. I lost track how many tries that took. Okay, well, that's how much I got done today, and today is not my day off. I worked this evening, so I gotta go get cleaned up and take a nap before I go to work. But the nice thing about it is, here it is, you know, this is January 30th, I think, which is sort of winter time, but we're here in Phoenix, and the temperature today was 78 degrees. Crazy. Well, I'm happy I got something done. It's a good start. I'm heading into my weekend the next 2 days, are my days off, so it's basically my weekend, even though it's Wednesday, Thursday. So hopefully I'll get some more done on this.